Okay, we're good. We're both live. We're good to go. So anyway, was able to address the Veterans Affairs Committee on extending the service of people on the commission that helps keep our 13 military facilities open and engaged. And that was no problem. Bipartisan bill, actually drafted up by Senator Blake, good man, and passed unanimously. We ran one bill off the Senate floor. It was unanimous, nothing really controversial there. And we'll be back in session tomorrow. I don't have the calendar yet, but it's all good. We're thankful for you guys. Some news, the Supreme Court made its final decision on the 3 remaining Pennsylvania cases. The 3 remaining Pennsylvania cases regarding the 2020 election, and U.S. Supreme Court's not going to hear them. So that avenue's done. Thank you, Bonnie. It's good to see you too. That constitutional approach is closed, at least for those 3 complaints. Of course, the Kelly lawsuit regarding election reform in Pennsylvania, it was unanimous by the U.S. Supreme Court not to hear that one. President Trump's campaign case on poll watchers was tossed out. There was 3 dissenting votes. I think it was Alito, Thomas, and Gorsuch. And the Pennsylvania Senate case, our own case, against our Secretary of State and the Wolf administration, was also not heard, and that was challenging the 3 extra days to receive ballots. And once again, I think Thomas, Alito, and Gorsuch were also dissenting on that as well. So those avenues are over. Would have been nice to have a closure actually sooner, but that's that. So the way ahead for election reform is through legislation. House has been doing their hearings for some time, and the Senate, you should be hearing about some of the hearings there shortly. And the point of those hearings is to find out what happened. We have to look back to what happened to move forward. And so that's the entire concept there, and it is a worthy endeavor, and I have found them quite useful actually. So that's that. I try not to do but it does slip out from time to time. Or, of course, watching the situation with the nursing homes, which accounts for more than half of all our deaths in Pennsylvania. Tragedy. Terrible, terrible, terrible. Obviously, we're trying to find out how to blunt the endeavor by the Wolf administration to toll 13 bridges across the state. Just terrible idea. We already are paying too much. We have to find ways to tighten our belts in the state rather than finding new schemes of raising money, which will not go where it needs to go, as we know with the gas tax. Which, by the way, I'll table that thought. Currently, the second highest in the nation, California, overtook us recently on that. So that's that. Of course, we're in the midst of commemorating the 30th anniversary of Desert Storm. On this day, 30 years ago, the ground forces were getting poised and ready to go to attack into southern Iraq or into Kuwait, depending which unit you were with. Well, I don't know where that came from, but here's a cool print. That's me on a destroyed Iraqi T-55 with the Pennsylvania state flag. That Pennsylvania state flag was sent by Rebbe State Senator Robert Robbins. He had just won an election, and he left the House for the Senate. within his first month of being in office, he thought enough to send me that flag, which was fantastic. And I obviously proudly carried it in Saudi Arabia, Iraq, and Kuwait. Let me angle over here so the other channel can see the lights reflecting off of it. That picture was snapped a couple days after the ground war. That's why you don't see a magazine in my M16 there. A couple days after the ground war ended. But that's kind of a favorite picture though. So these that T-55 is a Soviet designed tank, and the Soviets had a different idea of storing ammunition. They stored it around the turret. So if you got a direct hit, the turret on the tank would fly off, and there it is there. So on this, I see the turret on in the corner there. Americans, we store ammo, actually an ammo rack behind the driver and the gunner, or the track commander. So be it. So anyway, the anniversary of the ground war is just a couple days away, actually. So 30 years ago tomorrow, my regiment was actually ordered into Iraq the day before the ground war. And amazing things happened, which I'll share tomorrow. And then the 24th was a formal beginning of the ground war when all the forces from the Persian Gulf all the way out to the former neutral zone between Saudi Arabia and Iraq, when everyone lunged forward. And Sheila, Go Navy, is asking how old I was during Desert Storm. I was 27. It was quite a thing. By 27 years old, obviously, Rebbe and I were married a couple of years before that, 2 years before that. Obviously, we traveled across the country for Army training. Moved to Nuremberg, Germany. I had to go ahead. You couldn't bring your family with you unless you had a house, which in the wait was a bit interesting, of course. Like it could take as long as 6 months. Great, but God bless us. 3 weeks I got a house. Actually, Army apartment in Fürth, Germany, outside of Nuremberg. And anyway, served with the 2nd Armored Cavalry Regiment on the Iron Curtain, the West German borders with West Germany. I'm sorry, West German borders, East Germany and Czechoslovakia. Those countries don't exist anymore. Actually, all three don't. And leading men, we were in all male units still. Cavalry units were all male still back then. And so leading men, awesome, incredible soldiers. Tough mission though. Always in the field, either on or near the border, or supporting return forces Germany exercises, or in Hohenfels for the maneuver training. You practice maneuvering against an enemy, or a Grafenwehr for live fire training exercises, where the tanks and Bradleys and the Cobras and artillery and A-10s fire live rounds. Deployed to Turkey, an exercise near the Dardanelles Straits, and continuing to serve on the Iron Curtain. And then one day the Cold War ends without any warning, and welcoming former, East Germans and Czechs to West Germany to freedom. And I remember this one point, we were coming back from a deployment near the border, actually on the border, near the tri-border area, West Germany's border, where it met with Czechoslovakia and East Germany, called that tri-border area. And there was a busload of East Germans, and they were a little nervous about those Americans. There we are, young soldiers with their battle dress uniforms or BDUs, looking pretty tough, and they probably heard all kinds of nonsense from the Soviets on us. But I went over and started talking to them in German, and they gathered around me, and it's a memory I'll always cherish. They gathered around to me and clung to every word. I welcomed them to freedom and to the West, and for a new life, and it was fantastic. And peace and safety was breaking out. We're demobilizing troops. American troops are going home. Soviet troops are going home. It's a new world. Freedom is breaking out across Central and Eastern Europe and Central Asia. And with the price, Lithuanians, they had a tough go there. They lost some folks. And then last Warsaw Pact exercise called Ostwind, East Wind, Ostwind, and deployed up to northern Germany with the 12th British Signal Regiment. I think that's it. 12th or 16th. Anyway, it's the 12th. And they had a little black and white TV in their secure area, and there's pictures of Iraqi T-72 tanks rolling into Kuwait City. And I'm like, man, that's really messed up, but that'll never affect us. And then just a few months later, getting called up with about 100,000 other men and women stationed in Germany, Americans stationed in Germany. They're trained to fight the Soviets, going to the Saudi desert to liberate Kuwait. And so by 27 years old, served on the Iron Curtain, participated in the Cold War, saw the Cold War end, and then helped liberate a country by 27. That's quite a we've for those folks in our 50s today. There's been a lot of changes in our world, some good and some not so good. So anyway, to be part of history like that is really humbling, and it's quite a thing. So anyway, Sheila, that's a wrong way for me to answer that directly, but anyway, so I was 27. So anyway, it's great to see you guys there. And we're thankful for all those that serve. And so for the next few days, we'll be honoring the service and sacrifice of our Desert Storm veterans. Most of us are in our 50s, and I think it's important we commemorate that, not forget, especially Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania had the single greatest loss when that Scud missile, I believe it was on the 26th or 27th of February, crashed into a barracks warehouse with a lot of soldiers, and quite a few from Pennsylvania. And I'll also talk about that in a few days as well. So it's important we remember the sacrifices, and we can't forget. It helps us understand where we are and who we are and how we got here. Quite a thing, though. But thankful for each of you out there. I think I'm going to saddle up here and wrap this up. Kind of a low viewership. We're under 1,000. I probably scare people off with my war story. So really not a war story. Reminiscing, though. Philly says there was another rocket attack in Iraq again today. That's not good. Uh-oh. D. Matthews, toujours prey. Always ready, man. Always ready. So the most Army units have mottos. Like 3rd Infantry Division is Rock of the Marne, going back to the defense on June 1918 against the Germans on the Marne River, and they could not be moved. Rock of the Marne. And my regiment, 2nd Armored Cavalry Regiment, today is 2nd Cav. Philia Sayons, you're an engineer. I love the engineers. You guys are fantastic. But our motto was toujours prêt, which goes back to 1918, and it means always ready. The service of the regiment in France. Of course, the regiment has been in service since 1836. It's the oldest continuously serving cavalry regiment in American history, always on active duty. Then called the 2nd Dragoons, but so always ready. So, when Lieutenant Mastriano shows up at the 2nd Cavalry in 1988, spring 1988, and I didn't know what their motto was. It's pretty new to the Army, actually. From a Navy Marine Corps family, and watching as we walk down the road. Of course, the enlisted men would say, "Always ready, sir," and the officer replied, "Toujours prêt" in French. It's kind of a cool legacy to have. But you guys are fantastic. So keep the faith and stay strong. It's great to see you. And Vicky wants to know if the issues of the elections will be corrected before the May primary. very unlikely. I don't. So Senator Stefano and myself, he invited me to co-prime one of his pieces of legislation. Of course, was to abolish mail-in voting. I hope that it's run before the primary, but I'm not sure. I think a lot of the legislation will come after the hearings are done, and I suspect the House hearings won't be done until April or May. They're doing a very thorough analysis of what happened, very thorough, and rightly so. As far as the amendment to limit, Vicky's concerned about the amendment passing. I think it's going to pass overwhelmingly, but here's the rub. The language for the amendment was drafted by, I believe, I'm okay to be corrected on this here. I believe that the Department of State wrote the language for the amendment that would go on the ballot that limits the amendment is very clear. Do you think the governor's emergency powers should be limited to 3 weeks and then subject to renewal by the General Assembly? And the language that was written by our Secretary of State and then approved by our Attorney General is very confusing, and I do believe that's by design. So obviously on the amendments, I think there might be 2 or 3 amendments up there. We'll talk about all 3 once we get closer. But it'll be, I would recommend, of course, an affirmative vote, a yes vote on all 3, especially limiting the emergency powers. So more to follow on that, and that will happen in May if all goes well. So thanks again, friends, for tuning in. It's great to see you guys here. It's a blessing to serve and to continue to serve. And I'll ask you to stay strong, stay blessed, and stay encouraged. And I look forward to talking to you guys tomorrow. And see you soon. And I hope you dug out of the snow okay. Thank you, my friends. We do appreciate you guys.